Many hope the 2023 to bring peace and stability in the Horn, but Isaias Afwerki's New Year message shocked a lot of people as it reasonably indicates another year of fighting, tension, and disruptions. On his message on the eve of the New Year, the president called on the people of Eritrea to roll up their sleeves for another round of fierce resistance.
2023 بتزامادي ناي عبللتن حنكرتن عندراتات كونه ناي مقابلاتاتهم شرحتات زعقس لزي مسل لعلو كل خاء لمعتاو بدوهاتاتناون كعبس لزخونه كي تزاننا نزحي لما خطب النكايدو مدلوات.
As to the expert in international relations and comparative politics Mullah Reda, the message is an indication of Isaias' intent to subjugate the people of Tigray.
Is a reflection of that undying desire to continue his campaign of attempting to subjugate the people of Tigray. And as you know, in recent weeks, the Ethiopian government and the government of Tigray had concluded a peace agreement to bring this tragic conflict to an end. And unfortunately, there are elements here and there that are trying to spoil the peace agreement. And the Eritrean government is a classic spoiler.
President Isaias has never stood for election. For Eritrea, he is the only leader ever since its independence in 1991. No constitution and national assembly. According to the BTI Governance Index, Eritrea ranks second to last, scoring 1.212 out of possible 10 points. Mullah Reda also says Isaias preparing his own people for another round of bloodshed while peace taking momentum in Ethiopia shows how bad the regime in Eritrea is.
Successful implementation of the agreement between the government of Tigray and the Ethiopian federal government is predicated, at least in large part, on the withdrawal of the Eritrean government forces and Amhara forces. So the fact that the Eritrean leader is essentially preparing his people for further acts of bloodshed and destruction, I think, in the month and years ahead, speaks volumes about the nature of the regime in Eritrea. And so the international community needs to prevail on the Eritrean government and convince it that enough is enough and withdraw its forces from Tigray so that fellow Ethiopians can essentially live in harmony and peacefully amongst each other.
Isaias' New Year message mainly accuses world superpowers for meddling on the business of sovereign states such as Eritrea. Asked about this, Mullah says it is Isaias who posed a threat to the sovereignty and national integrity of Ethiopia.
And the fact that the Eritrean army is participating in this internal conflict with the full measure of its national power is antithetical to that formulation that you mentioned earlier. And President Isaias also has a tendency to play victim when in fact his army has been victimizing the people of Tigray, among other things. And he's also been engaged in all kinds of destabilizing activities over the past 3 decades. In fact, the United Nations Security Council had levied sanctions on Eritrea in 2009, and those sanctions were strengthened further in 2011 for Eritrea's role in destabilizing its neighbors, including for its support of Al-Shabaab, the terrorist outfit based in Somalia. And so the fact that the Eritrean regime is actually branding what the Western world is doing, for example, a kind of interference, is a bit problematic. That's a very wrong formulation. What the Eritrean government is doing in Tigray, in Ethiopia, is actually a violation of the country's sovereignty and territorial integrity. What elements of the international community are trying to help.
Eritrea Ministry of Information said the president will come up to press in the coming week. It is to be recalled that on the 23rd of December, AU high-level panel member Uhuru Kenyatta stated that all foreign forces will withdraw from Tigray according to the Pretoria Agreement.